Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the August 6th meeting of the Logan Municipal Council to order. Thank you all for being here this evening. I'm so privileged to bring Richie Call, the artistic director for the Lyric Theater here in beautiful downtown Center Street of Logan, to open us today. Richie, come on up.
Thank you for having me. We've just completed our 58th season at the Lyric Repertory Company. I'm very pleased to report that it is the second highest grossing season in our company's history. This was a huge relief to us this summer because it's the first time since 2020 that we've climbed to above pre-pandemic numbers. So this was a big relief that we not only met that but exceeded it a little bit. We produced 2 shows and several special events at the Kane Lyric Theater, one show up on the university campus in the Morgan Theater, and 2 shows in the Black Box Studio Theater. It is our intention to someday bring all our shows back downtown to the Lyric Theater, but with the theater in need of renovation as it is, that's currently impossible. Some of you have probably noticed today that construction started out front on the roof of the Lyric. That's great news. It's very important that that happens. Unfortunately, that doesn't cover the portion of the roof that requires us to shut down through the winter, which is the stage house. But we have launched a building campaign. We did that this summer, and our pie in the sky hopeful plan for that is to begin construction on that a year from right about now. So that's our hope. We've had a great season, and while I'm here, I'd like to acknowledge with gratitude the funding that we received through the Logan City Cultural Arts Grant, which helps us a great deal. Please join me. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, Richie. It was a fun season. My in-laws were super happy to have like 1950s music show. That was like the highlight of their summer to get to see that. So thanks. All right. At this time, I will accept the motion for acceptance of the minutes and approval of the agenda. But before we do that, on ordinance 24-14, the requesters for that code amendment have withdrawn their request. So if someone would like to make a motion to remove that from the agenda this evening, that would be great.
And it's a workshop, correct?
It's a workshop, yep.
I move that we remove the proposal for ordinance 24-14.
I'll second the motion.
Anything on the minutes? All in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? A motion for the acceptance of the minutes from our July meeting?
I'll move acceptance of the minutes.
I'll second.
Thanks. Any changes or any comments? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of accepting the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And it's approved. Just a reminder, the Logan City Council meets every first and third Tuesday of the month at 5:30 here in the council chambers at 290 North 100 West. Our next meeting will be August 20th. At this time, we always open up our meeting for questions and comments for the mayor and the council. If anyone does have an issue that they would like to raise or comment on that's otherwise not on our agenda, please come to the microphone, introduce yourself, please state where you live. We'd ask you to limit your comments to 3 minutes, and also please make sure that they are something that are within the purview of the council and the mayor to address. Seeing no one, I will bring it back to the mayor for mayor and staff reports.
And as you can see, there are no specific items under my report, but I will just add one thing. I went down to the aquatic center today, to the pool, and just met with the lifeguards because last week I got an email forwarded to me, someone who was at the pool. They observed an event that they were just impressed with how our lifeguards handled it. There was a 2-year-old that was fully submerged in the water, and the lifeguard immediately dove in, got them out. They got them out quickly enough. They didn't even need to do CPR, handed them off to some of the other lifeguards. She said immediately the other lifeguards, because there's kind of, they have a whistle code, and then the other lifeguards come and back them up. The ones that are on break come in, and just, again, I learned a little bit about their training. Like every 10 seconds, they have a certain area that they're supposed to scan back and forth. And most of these lifeguards are high school students, so we're talking 15 to 17. But they have to get all these certifications. They train and they retrain during, the summer. But just really impressive. I mean, when you think about, I think the capacity is like 1,500 to 1,600 people at the pool, and a lot of times this summer they'd reach that in the afternoon. They'd have to say, I'm sorry, we can't let anyone else in until someone comes out. So this crew of lifeguards is really doing a great job, and I thought that was maybe a once a summer event. They said, oh no, we track them, we have data, we can see which areas of the pool these incidents are happening in, so we know if we need to allocate more lifeguards. They said we probably have 2 to 3 of those a week where a lifeguard has to go in and pull someone out. It's not just that they're whistling because they have a toy that's not allowed or something. So again, what could have been just a horrible incident was the lifeguards handled it. So sorry, that's my, so kudos to that team, and I'm going to do a story on them in my next mayor's newsletter. So, and just to see the infrastructure of the boiler and talk to the people. I mean, they have people there vacuuming the pool till like 2 a.m. because they have the evening session, and then they have a night aerobics class, and then they have a morning aerobics that starts early. So they have people like vacuuming the pool till 2 a.m. Another crew member comes in at like 6 a.m. or maybe 5 to do it. So they work really hard in the summer to make kind of a fun, entertainment, safe environment for people. So, all right, I'll stop now.
No, I like hearing stories about our everyday heroes that live and walk amongst us. So thanks for sharing that, Mayor Davis. All right, we'll then move on to council business. Councilmember Simmons, do we have an update from Planning Commission?
Planning Commission did not meet on the 24th of July.
Surprise.
But they meet this week.
They do meet this week.
All right. All right, we'll now do our board and committee reports. Mike, do you have something you'd like to share with us about your meetings this month?
Oh, I thought you were going for something specific there for a moment. It was actually not a very busy month with the 2 holidays. I really only had a couple things. BPAC met, and we created some videos for Bike Week with the health department a couple of weeks ago, so those should be coming out in September. And then we all went, I think, what was Ernesto, Mark, and Mayor and I went and visited some chip seal sites a few weeks ago, and it was great to see the public works crews out doing chip seal, and they were up in Hillcrest doing it, and we had to race them up the hill to keep up with them.
In the cliffside area.
Yes.
And I got a text from a resident who lives out there just saying, thank the crews for doing such a nice job at resurfacing our roads. So, and I passed that along to them.
They look great. Yeah, it was fun to go out and see them in action. And then I think there was a RESAB meeting last Friday, but I was unable to attend, so I'm still waiting on the minutes from that to come out. So,
If anything's important, you can share it at our next meeting.
I will do.
All right, thanks, Mike. Ernesto, anything you'd like to share? From
Yes,
your meeting?
all of the boards and committees that I attend have been on, I guess, summer break. But I did get to attend the airport authority meeting, what was it, 3 weeks ago? Jeannie already reported kind of that there's a lot of opportunities that this study reveals, and it'll be interesting to see what the board decides to do with that information. The Cash Arts has kind of announced its shows lineup for the season. I believe the tickets will be available here in the next week or two. I attended a virtual meeting for the last few details they wanted to update on the RFP for the rec center feasibility study. I believe that will close. It'll become available sometime this month, soon, if it hasn't already. and I believe it will close at the end of next month, September. And then we have had ongoing conversations with the school district superintendent about bringing back the youth council program, and we're kind of deciding final details on that, but we'll have an update very soon.
Thanks, Ernesto. So just like everybody else, lots of people didn't meet this month because of the holidays, but we did have a meeting today with the Bear River Local Homeless Council. Just so people are aware, there are plans to hopefully have a feasibility study done, probably underneath the direction and guidance of the Lynn and May Bernard Warming Center, but with participation hopefully from other service provider organizations to really look and see what would be the best and most cooperative way to address issues of the unhoused here across the Bear River region. So we'll probably get some information on that. It looks like the RFP for the study would be released with the due date of September 24th for that coming back. But again, trying to make sure that we're engaging all of the individuals who do provide either care and support to individuals who are unhoused or people who are at risk of becoming unhoused, so that we can more effectively plan and support those individuals and organizations. And then Cash Community Connections, the Interfaith wrapped up their summer concert series. They are in the process now of starting to plan for their Thanksgiving service, which is like super scary to think about, like Thanksgiving in November. But they're going to be combining that this year with Interfaith Open House. So for individuals who are engaged with their church community, they're going to be looking for congregations that are willing to be open the weekend before Thanksgiving for anywhere from an hour to 6 hours, whatever would work for them, just to be able to share information about their faith traditions and encourage people to come and visit and learn about different faiths throughout the valley. So look for some information coming up on that. And that is all I have to report on my boards and committees. So. I did want to just give a quick update. Our third item is the Logan River Watershed Project. And I just kind of wanted to share with the community just a little bit of information. You know, we periodically get emails from individuals with questions about that and what's happening. And so just wanted to let people know that, yes, that is still going on. Just a reminder that the project objectives for that are really, one is flood control, which is an issue for Logan, North Logan, Hyde Park, and other portions of Cache County. That's one of the project objectives. Agricultural water management is a project objective. Recreational opportunities within the project area is one. So you can kind of hear those all are very different and unique needs. And so this, I think that helps us all understand why this project is requiring study and is being deliberate and taking its time to make sure that it's done right. They are moving forward right now with review of 2 alternatives, and they did provide us some information that I just wanted to share really quickly with the community. They have received comments about 2 potential alternatives which address concerns about the Little Logan. No alternative has been proposed that would pipe or enclose the entire Little Logan, which is something we often get from people, like there's fear that they're piping the entire Logan River or the entire Little Logan River. So just to put people's minds at ease about that. One is called the first dam alternative, which the Little Logan would supply irrigation water to main flow during the irrigation season, starting in River Hollow Park, just west of the diversion with Logan River, including through Jens Johansson Park, Merlin Olsen Park, the Cache County Fairgrounds, Willow Park, and Majestic Park. So those would be open waterways. Due to the need for large diameter pipe to pressurize the irrigation system throughout the Crockett's distribution system, the main water supply pipe would have to be placed in the current Little Logan alignment below River Hollow Park to Crockett Avenue. A new trail would be planned to be placed over the pipe. Adjacent to the pipe and trail, the project team is considering options to maintain an open channel to retain open flow through River Hollow Park. Under this alternative, the Crockett Diversion Dam in the Logan River would be removed and replaced with a series of steps and pools. The diversion removal would benefit water quality, facilitate fish and recreational passage, and improve river aesthetics, and in-stream flows would be provided in the Logan River. Then there's the Crockett Diversion alternative, and under that alternative, the Little Logan would be supplied with water to maintain flow through the irrigation season through all sections of the Little Logan, including River Hollow Park, Jens Johansson Park, Merlin Olsen Park, the Cache County Fairgrounds, Willow Park, and Majestic Park. The Crockett Diversion Dam in the Logan River would be replaced. In-stream flows would be provided in the Logan River to improve water quality, flow continuity, and river aesthetics along the Logan River. So if people would like more information, I would just suggest that you continue to follow the website. I'm going to read it here to make sure I get it right for all of you, which is, of course I did
It's on the bottom of the,
Oh, there we go.
there, so.
And you can just Google, it's nrcs.usda.gov, and you can just search, I shouldn't say Google, because apparently now that's like not the Supreme Court, so that's like, there's some judge said that Google is.
That's like saying Kleenex is
Yeah,
a tissue.
I know, exactly. But just search for Logan Watershed in their search thing, and you can find out all the information I just shared and some additional information. There is not currently public comment going on, but I had a conversation with somebody today that, they are still accepting emails at loganriver@utwatershed.com. They're compiling those and providing those to the people that are working on this project. So even though they're not part of the public comment, they are still compiling and reviewing those on an ongoing basis. So for those who have questions, again, I would direct you to that website and encourage you to reach out via email to utwatershed.com. So that's
They have received over 950 comments thus far.
as far as. And in talking to them, they said that the comments have definitely changed and altered some of the alternatives in the way the project is progressing. So public comment is being listened to, it's being absorbed, but I know you said, Jeannie, you guys were just talking about this at the Water District last night. I mean, it impacts a lot of stakeholders.
Well, we had a long presentation because the Water District is the sponsor of the project. And so we had a long conversation with regard to the timeline and with regard to how the project has changed from the initial thoughts when they first got the money to do it. So it's an evolving process, and they are in the process now of beginning to draft the EIS. Once that has gone through all of the channels of approval that it has to go through, then there'll be another public comment period based on that EIS. And then the timeline that Eric showed us was they wouldn't know for sure until probably 2026.
Yeah, they're saying that the EIS is probably going to be November before that's completed, and then it has to move on for review, so.
And it'll probably be 2026 before they have an accepted EIS, but that does not mean a funded project. Because from there, it has to go to Congress to be funded, and each piece of that project has different matching requirements. So it depends upon, the wastewater has a zero matching requirement. So it can be funded at 100%, where recreation is only at 50% funded. So there are all those matches that will have to be assembled and committed by Hyde Park, Cache County, North Logan, and Logan City.
Thanks. All right. We will now move on to our action items. We have three public hearings tonight.
Budget adjustment.
We have a budget adjustment tonight, and I think we're workshopping one as well. I think got to keep these meetings like exciting and changing, ever changing. So our
Just
very
passed the
first.
budget on Thursday.
I know.
Perfect. It was perfect for a week.
It was perfect for more than a week.
For 5 days.
It's been 2 weeks. Yeah, so our first public hearing is on Resolution 24-29, which is a budget adjustment appropriating some funds for youth sports programs, $85,000 for the state task force for reducing, preventing, and investigating drug usage, and $72.70 in police forfeitures. Anything you'd like to add to that, Rich? Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak to this, you are welcome to come up to the microphone, state your name, where you live, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes on Resolution 24-29.
Matthew, Logan, does public comment include questions?
I'm sorry?
Does public comment include question?
About, yes,
I'm
the
just
public
curious.
hearing, yes.
I'd just like to know where like the explanation of just the different items on here, like go through the nuance of what the money is, just because I don't know what it is. So,
For each of the specific,
that'd be great, actually.
things like,
Yeah.
sure, I can have Rich do that after we close the
okay.
public hearing.
Then
and be
can I
more
come back
specific.
after that?
Pardon?
Then can I come back up after that, or should I use this time to just talk?
So do you have a specific question about one of them or just all of them in general?
Just all of them. I'm just curious where the money is coming from, / where is it going, / is there a reason why it's going to that specific one as opposed to anywhere else? Just those kinds of questions.
Okay, sure. Well, I can answer part of that, but the state task force funds, those are allocated funds that come directly for that. They were awarded by the state of Utah that comes specifically to our city for those types of activities that are identified, reducing, preventing, and investigating drug usage. That's where those funds come from the state task force. The police forfeitures are equipment that we have received that we then sell, and then those are used towards replacing additional police equipment. So those are, items that have been confiscated here within our city. And the donated funds for the youth sports program, I don't know the specifics on where that one was derived
I can't remember
from.
who, it was a local restaurant, I think, that donated those funds for, I believe, the baseball program.
For the baseball program. So does that help?
I'm curious too about the forfeitures. What are police forfeitures exactly again?
So it would be, actually, Chief Simmons, would you be able to answer that question for him?
Yeah, in this case, there are firearms that we collect in investigations that the persons are not allowed to have, and so they're forfeited to us through the court system by the very owners, and then we take those and sell those and reimburse ourselves with some equivalents.
Okay. I have a hang up then about that specifically. I don't know why the funding is going straight to the police force exactly. It seems like they're doing a fine job on getting things from the guns that they're reselling, but I feel like it would be better used actually going towards, I don't know, gun safety education or something like that outside of the police specifically too, because otherwise we're still hardlining that the police are the only ones that get to interact with the safety and resolve to be safe with guns and everything. But that's just a minor hang up. Anyways, done with the comments on that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your comment.
Just a point of clarification, on those forfeitures, they're not designated for police. It's just in this case, we're choosing to use it for that purpose.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. So in the future, it could be used for gun safety education.
Could be
Should
used
it
for any municipal
decided?
purpose,
Any
including the
municipal.
finance party.
I was gonna say I could.
Unlikely, but possible.
Anybody else to speak to this resolution? All right, seeing no one, I will bring it back to the council for action.
I'll move we approve resolution 24-29. Did we start talking at the same time again?
Almost, yes. I'll second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion on that?
We just think the same, Ernesto. No, I appreciate all the comments on it though. It's good to make sure we know what we're doing.
Seeing none, I will call for the vote. All those in favor of resolution 24-29, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, resolution 24-29 passes. Thank you, Matthew, though, for your comment. That's, I think it's helpful for us to understand where the funding goes and what rules and parameters might exist around the spending of that. So we're keeping an eye on that in the future to make sure it's
We have multiple
Use
times
things.
allowed those to go to fund balance and then be used for roads.
okay.
So it doesn't always go to police, and we have had that discussion as well.
Okay.
It doesn't always go there,
Okay.
but we have the last 2 or 3 times.
Thanks. Our next public hearing is on resolution 24-27. This is a public hearing. It's consideration of a resolution indicating the intent to adjust the municipal boundaries between us and Midley City. Hey, Mike.
Hi, I can give you
Yeah, you want to give us a quick update on that
a
one?
30-second primer. Yeah, this is a proposal to modify this boundary down along 2200 South on the highway. This shows you the existing boundary, this blue line. There's a little bit of these residual portions of the property that belong to the charter school, and then this property is owned by a developer that wants to develop in Nibley, and we told them to include these 3 properties along the highway. This is what the proposal would look like. We would just square off our boundary and Nibley's boundary, and it seems pretty straightforward, so.
And can you walk through then again the process after this, because this is the resolution of intent. This does not automatically change the boundaries.
Correct.
So can you walk us through just the
Yeah, this
remaining
is just a notification to the world, hey, we are going to do this. Now we'll enter into a public notification phase. There's a 60-day window. We'll notify the property owners, the surrounding property owners, affected entities, solicit comments, and then we will need to pass the ordinance through this group in later than 60 days. And Nibley will do the same thing. And then that will be finalized in the Senate for the state, Lieutenant Governor's office for final approval.
What if somebody says no?
Then we go through that process. There's part of that. That's why we have a
Like a
60-day
percentage.
window for a protest.
There's only a certain few property owners that can protest.
Well, I know. But what if there's 3, right? 3 or 4?
3 or 4, it's not likely. I think
There's developer and then 3 others.
Yeah, there's 5 separate property owners involved, and if you get a protest, it's kind of proportionality of ownership, acreage, and then value. So you have the ability to say, we appreciate your protest, but we still think it's a good idea, or vice versa. So you can say no.
Well, no, what I'm saying is if the 2 property owners on the highway or whatever that are currently in Logan City said, we want to stay in Logan City, then what is the process whereby we would adjust the boundary and move forward? Would it have to start over?
Well, you've got 2 choices. Is you could adopt this as shown, because under the umbrella of good government makes a line easier to administer, or you could go back and tell the applicant, basically the proponent of this whole process, to amend their survey to take those 2 properties out.
Okay.
We would encourage that not to happen, because it creates these 2 little weird stray parcels that then it's a question about, well, they're in our jurisdiction, but they're not served by us or served by you. We as staff would prefer that we follow the road, just make it clean and simple.
Okay.
It would be challenging for utility service as well. Yeah.
Well, I just want to
Right.
know exactly what would happen. That's all.
Any questions for Mike before we open the public hearing? Thanks, Mike. At this time, I would invite anybody who would like to speak to Resolution 24-27 to please come to the microphone, state your name, where you live, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Gail Yost, I've been a resident of Logan for 47 years now, 45 in my house. And I'm going to say it's about time that this got straightened out, because I remember reading about it, I remember hearing about it, I remember coming to meetings and hearing about it, so good for you. We need to have that straightened out so that we can be good neighbors to Nibley, because there have been some boundary issues and malcontent. So, thank you.
Fair assessment.
Thank you, Dr. Yost.
Matthew Fatwasi, Logan. I feel like whatever that malcontent is would be worthy stuff to bring up as far as the discussion of why exactly this boundary is being changed. Like, that's what the declaration of intent is for, as opposed to just saying lines being redrawn. That's a personal opinion, but if we're not okay with dealing with off-kilter boundaries or anything like that, I don't know why we're dealing with boundary shuffling at all and not just sticking with like a grid system absolutely de facto, like that has to be the way that it goes. And I don't know, if it's inconvenient to do the utilities or anything like that, then maybe we should have a discussion as well about increasing the quality of funding so that we can get proper training to handle this kind of stuff, or just, I don't know. I think I don't have anything against Nibley or anything like that. I just find it sad that things wouldn't be under a jurisdiction that is, under your personal domain type situation to handle the situations. I don't know what Nibley's tax rates are, since there's currently an adjustment going on with property taxes, but that's my personal comment, that it seems like this is a convenience thing, but a convenience only in this particular instance where residences are left to the side as opposed to other instances like the wetlands that we're classified as a wetland over on the west side, right? Does anybody know?
What was the question?
Are we a wetlands over on the west side? You know, like marsh, wetlands? I thought that was,
Yeah,
we
but, I
can't really
mean,
have basements.
it's noted on our map, but yeah, we definitely have wetland areas within the city
Okay.
boundaries.
Yeah, so like, I don't know, that kind of stuff, like with the Little Logan River, I'm not worried about it being like piped up necessarily. I'm worried about the EPA ruling at the Supreme Court level where unless there's a direct source from the wetlands to the major body of water, then it loses the classification as a wetland, which opens up for development and destruction of environment. I don't know what Nibley's environmental rules are either. I don't know. It's just those kinds of discussions that I always feel like are left on the wayside and left to the discretion of public comment to worry about. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew. Anybody else? Seeing no one, I will bring this back to the council for action.
Mike, can we maybe answer part of Matt's question there with why, I mean, I know we went over it 2 weeks ago in the workshop, but can we just briefly answer that question of why, who started this, where did this proposal come from? You know it more in depth than I do.
Well, there's a lot of history behind
There is.
this, so.
The 2-minute version or less.
This area was annexed into Nibley and Logan back in, I think, 2006 or 2007. It was done really purely political reasons because Nibley was expanding. There were some issues with Logan residents that didn't want to go into Nibley, county residents vice versa. So we've been dealing with this issue for a number of years about where really the line should be. We came to this group, we being staff as well as Nibley, we had an agreement worked out about trying to adjust the boundaries, and this was included in that. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. But in this specific case, these two big properties and the small property up here, the city reviewed a development proposal on there last year. The rezone and the development proposal did not adopt the rezone, and so in turn, the proponent developer went to Nibley and said, hey, I want to do a project, can you serve me? They entered into an agreement to annex, and so then they came back to us, and originally came back with a disconnect, which is taking those 3 properties out and giving it to Nibley. And it's a formal process to go through, but legally they can do that. And what we said was, well, we have these small little pieces which are part of the charter school that were created when they did a boundary line adjustment, but didn't adjust the municipal boundary. And then we have these properties up here that we can't serve with utilities. So it just makes good sense from a governmental perspective to consolidate that under one municipal boundary for ease of future use. So that's really the underlying purpose. It's not insidious. There's no reason, we're not trying to hide anything. It just makes better sense. And these folks have made aware of it. They've been noticed. We'll re-notice everybody so they have the chance to participate.
Yeah. I just think making it clear that it came from the proponent, from the property owners, and then we just did a little bit of cleanup in the area while we're in there working on it. But it wasn't necessarily something that we just decided to adjust our boundary for fun. It's Mike's got nothing better to do than look at the edge of the map sometimes.
I find it interesting that the proponent, because it was an interesting project that was not well received by the people at the charter school.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
And they haven't gone through their public process yet because obviously they don't have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I'd be curious to see if the same level of comments that we receive will be applied under that different jurisdiction.
Yeah. Because it was pretty heated.
Yeah. Thank you for the summary, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, we had 2 meetings with Nibley, like 6 or 7 years ago about doing a boundary adjustment. So it's been on the table for a long time to try to solidify it. And I believe that a big part of this is sewer, correct? That we cannot necessarily serve those parcels with the sewer. Okay. All right, any other questions for Mike?
No, thank you.
We have a
We don't have a motion on the table right now.
I don't want to interrupt Ernesto again.
We have a resolution, right?
But we don't have a motion on the table right now.
I'll move to approve resolution 24-27.
I'll second it.
Now you do.
Now I do.
Too late.
Any further discussion or questions?
Nope.
All right, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of Resolution 24-27, which is the intent to adjust and will yield additional public comment time later, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 24-27 passes. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Our next public hearing is on Resolution 24-26. This is consideration of a proposed resolution approving rates for the City of Logan solid waste collection and disposal fees. Lisa, would you like to come up and walk us through this? Thank you. Are you wingman tonight?
Who runs the computer?
Technical expertise, yes.
This is the same invitation we gave a couple weeks ago. Excuse my voice, I have a little cold, so. We presented to you a couple weeks ago about this proposed rate change for the solid waste rate. Let me scroll to the back here. So the proposal we have before you today is to change our C&D tipping fee from $30 per ton to $38 per ton.
Can you explain what C&D is for the public?
That's commercial and demolition, or construction and demolition waste. So stuff that would come off a construction job site and a demolition, like when the mall came down. MSW, municipal solid waste, that's your bins and your commercial bins for your businesses. Then, so that would change from $34.50 to $38 a ton. Then we currently charge $0 per ton for green waste. We accept that for free, and we would begin charging a green waste fee of $25 per ton. Our corresponding small load fees, currently it's $10 per load at the landfill for a pickup truck or smaller. That would go up to $15 per load, and the green waste would have a minimum fee of $10 per load, excuse me. And that would be charged universally, all Cache County citizens, Logan City, and out of the county users as well. So it would be universal across all users. Our household hazardous waste services would still remain open and free to all. The residential rates, the proposal is to go from our current rate for a 60-gallon can of $15.40 to $15.90 per pickup. And that includes the 90-gallon every other week blue curbside recycling bin. And it's the same increase for the 90-gallon cart, so a 50-cent increase for the 90-gallon cart. Then an adjustment for the green waste cart, which we already put into effect, of going from $5 a pickup to, or $5 per month per pickup, then to $4. And as you can see in the column that says full rate cost, there is some adjustment. This is the actual, what the consultant came out to be what our costs were. And so the recommended rate for garbage subsidizes the green waste pickup a little bit. And our commercial rates, let's see, we presented this too. Here's a slight comparison for that we presented last week. Logan City still pays a significantly lower rate than all other city users outside the valley.
Could I ask a question? The minimum fee for multifamily dwelling units serviced by commercial bins shall be the 90-gallon rate plus recycling multiplied by the number of dwelling units.
Yeah, so currently in some like apartment buildings, we have like an 8-yard dumpster.
Okay.
That we service with a front load. And when we did our last rate study in 2018, we started charging per door. So if it's a fourplex, it's 4 residential rates. We found with this study that since those citizens have access to a large bin all the time, that they're utilizing. So they'll throw their couch away or their mattress away. They're never coming down to the landfill with a large bulky item. It just goes in the
the big container, and that's driving our cost to collect those apartments. And so we would just move them to the 90-gallon rate and it'd still charge it per door. So instead of the 60-gallon rate for each
Okay.
customer, we do the 90-gallon
Okay,
rate.
okay.
And that would hopefully recover the cost that we are spending on those bulky items that people are just utilizing that because it's there, and I don't blame them. I mean, have a big bin for your mattress away. Let me go. It's the commercial rates we're proposing. This is for our commercial rates for a 15 to 25% increase, depending on the dumpster size. The 25% is for the 2-yard bins, the smaller 2-yard bins where we have a lot of cost of going to them, but no, there's not a lot of waste in there. Then to keep kind of the separation and encourage people to still utilize those bigger bins so we can service them less frequently, there's a 15% increase on those larger dumpster sizes to cover costs. Then our roll-off containers are currently at $126 per haul, and we're recommending to move that up to $182 per haul for permanent bins, and for a temporary bin service it'd be $225 to kind of cover the cost of putting in the work orders, rerouting the truck to that temporary bin. It's not on a permanent schedule, so we're constantly moving and removing bins, so to cover that cost at our front office. Any other questions? That's the overview of the changes in the rate. And the big item here is the green waste. Currently, we accept green waste throughout the entire county, and we don't receive any revenue or have any mechanism of covering our costs. Before we stopped collection of the countywide waste, we were receiving 50 cents per household countywide to pay for our green waste program. With that separation of the county collection services, we're now providing that green waste disposal service for free for the entire county with no mechanism to cover the costs.
But again, we have priced the green waste such that we hope that will encourage people to use a green can, or for the haulers to separate it. So again, it doesn't fill up the landfill as fast. It also kind of produces more methane and so on. So again, we're encouraging the composting, the green waste to go to composting through our pricing structure.
So, it's interesting. So on some of these, like the difference between the full cost rate and the recommended rate, they jump all over the place. So could you talk a little bit about how the rate study took that full cost?
Full cost rate takes into account all our expenses, kind of like on a 10-year average. So
10-year average.
all the capital improvements we're going to have to do, like landfill closure, methane gas collection system, it takes all those and averages the capital we're going to have in our program for 10 years. And it takes all our equipment, rolling stock, our landfill compactors, our collection trucks, and averages that out over 10 years. Then divide it back by the services or the number of users, and we get the full rate cost. That's what it costs to do that. But to encourage, like on the green waste, we've set the green waste rate lower than the full rate cost, like the mayor said, to encourage green waste production. Then, let me go back to the disposal rates. So the full rate cost here, $42 per ton. It's just a large gap to go from $30 a ton for C&D and $34.50 all the way up to the full rate of $42.
But we intend to increase up to 42 within 2 years, correct?
It says up to 40.
40 in 2 years.
40, okay.
And we have, because that's a 10-year average on that capital and the equipment, we have a little bit of buffer. If some of those projects happen later in the 10 years, we don't need all that money up front in this next, 2-3 years of rates, that we can accrue rates over time to pay for those larger capital projects. And so that's why we didn't go to the full rate cost, trying to keep it as affordable as we can.
Any other questions before we open the public hearing?
When is the last time we raised? rates?
The last time we raised rates was in 2018,
Okay.
so it's been 6 years. And so I think, I don't have my notes from last time, but I think our labor, equipment, fuel rates have all gone up more than 30% since 2018.
Closer to 50 probably.
Yeah, you can see that
So
on the
we
rates.
were
That,
budgeting diesel around $2 a gallon, labor around like $22 a person, and now we're well over that.
and if, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
When would this go into effect?
So the proposal is to have the collection rates and the tipping fee at the landfill go into effect in September. The green waste rate would go into effect January 1st of 2025. So this season, we wouldn't have any changes on the green waste. And beginning in the kind of off-season for green waste, we would implement the changes. Then, like the mayor pointed out, in 2 years, in fiscal year 2027, 2 years from now, we would increase that to $40 for the tipping fee.
From the commercial side of things, what percentage of our accounts use a roll-off type of service?
Percentage that we use for roll-off?
We don't know percentage-wise, but these are good-sized businesses like
We like
Schreiber's, Gosner's,
TTM.
yeah.
So we have 3 trucks, I don't know percentage, but we have 3 roll-off trucks that go 5 days a week, and 3 commercial trucks collecting the bins. But it's much more effective with the big truck, because you can go bin to bin to bin, then to the landfill. With the roll-off bin, it's to your business, back to the landfill, the empty, then bring the bin back. So it's 2 trips to each bin location.
So if I understood correctly, you said that a study does formula where 10 years are accounted for, is that what you said?
Yes.
So how did we, I see the change for the roll-off, quite steep in my opinion. So how did we miss, per se, being a little more incremental in this type of charge for the roll-off type of service?
Well, part of it was the change from the countywide system. I mean, we had been talking about rate increases, and then when we were looking at separating from the county, we kind of just put that on hold until that kind of got resolved. And also, if you'll look at the new rates that the other private haulers are charging for commercial, we're still considerably below their rates. Is that correct? Or did we kind of,
Yeah, Waste Management, I know, is $330 per haul on a roll-off. Yes, and so we put this on hold, 2 years ago, as we kind of split from the county. We were starting to gear up for a rate study and look at our rates, and that kind of decided to separate. So we waited until we were fully separated so we could just account for the segregation of what the county still utilizes, the landfill, the transfer station, and the transfer haul out to North Valley, and what's Logan City only, to segregate those out and allocate those costs to the prospective customers that pay for them.
and again, the collection is now done by individual cities, whether privately or through contract, but, you know, overall, I mean, everyone has the same charges for the tipping fees at the landfill, for, you know, green waste. So again, that is on parity kind of countywide.
So just to confirm then, if we had not separated from the county, this potential increase for the commercial roll-off could have been higher.
Potentially.
If the county would have agreed to
If the
it.
county would have agreed to it.
So it potentially would have, because we charged one rate, and this was one of the things that was good for the separation. We charged one rate whether we took a bin to Lewiston or we took a bin to the jail just down the road. And so we were charging the same amount regardless of how many miles or hours. I mean, and so if we were still going all the way to both ends of the county, yes, that rate would need to be higher to account for the time spent. And what that does was the businesses in Logan basically subsidize that rate to bring it down lower, because the guy in Lewiston, we're paying more doing one rate. So So he gets a discount because we took the bin all the way up, and the citizens, could be cheaper for them if we did just go all the way up there.
Can you put slide 22 up? So when I'm looking at this, so even with this increase, we're still not achieving as much revenue as we need for the full cost of service.
But again, it balances out over the 10.
So not quite at this time, but when we get that second increase, the $40 a ton,
Okay.
that's when we'll get there. It's not shown on this graph.
Okay,
So
thanks.
And
So
these,
can I ask a random question? Go ahead.
I was going to say, these rates were approved by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, too.
Rich, this is a question for you. So I understand the dumpster and the apartment. But if you live in an apartment and you pay your utilities, do you pay a garbage fee?
Yeah, the way we charge for utilities does not match the container always. For instance, you'll have an apartment building and they'll be charged for a 90-gallon can, but they don't have an 90-gallon can. Instead, there's a large bin that is hopefully the equivalent or pretty close to the equivalent of a 90-gallon can for each one of those places. Is that what your question is?
So, well, my question is sort of like, so now we're charging for the bin, we're charging extra because people are putting stuff in it that's reasonable but unusual. So are they, and the apartment owner is paying that charge,
Could be.
but if he's not, and the residents are paying, I don't understand how that
I
works.
see what you're saying, and it is all of the above. We have every possible variation out there. In most cases, with apartment complexes, the individual unit and the utilities are in their name, for the most part. Let's say 70% of them are in their name, and they would pay for the garbage. In some cases, and it's becoming more common, the landlord will keep all utilities in the landlord's name and will pay for the garbage and the water and everything else, and then we'll recover those charges either through rent or some other agreement.
Okay, so it's sort of moving that direction?
It's kind of moving that. Over the last, I'd say 10 years since Conservice came on, and that's kind of what they do a little bit for some of these landlords, it's moved that direction. But it's super hard because we have every possible variation. We would love to dictate you can only do it one way because we'd be far more accurate and able to serve the customer better, but we have every variation under the sun. In fact, we'll have some that pay everything but water. We'll have some that pay everything but water and garbage. We have some that pay everything but water, garbage, and sewer. We have some, it's every variation.
And it's what's in their lease, correct?
It depends what's in the
determined by
lease and how those apartments were constructed to where there's separate meters or not.
So,
It's tough.
so it's a billing, I mean, when I come and I say I live at this apartment, you look it up and say, oh, you only have to pay electricity. And so that's all that comes on your bill.
Exactly.
So if there is a,
And we have good notes on everything else, we hope. As to why
okay,
that's
I was like, okay, everybody pays
I know.
twice.
Yeah.
So
It
it
is
wasn't
very,
making
very
any
hard.
sense. But thank you.
We do have, there is a majority that have it a certain way. I'd say the majority across the entire city is it's individual units pay all charges associated with that unit. And that's the way most landlords want it. With the exception of water, typically water is water consumption is just to the unit. There's only one.
There's just a single pipe going into the building.
There you go. And it's only metered at that location, and then it's disseminated to all of them. So with the
Theoretically,
exception of that one, they pay for all their utilities typically.
okay, thank you.
Other questions before we open the public hearing? Okay. This is a public hearing. Anybody who would like to speak to Resolution 24-26, please come to the microphone, state your name, where you live, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hi, Matthew. I live in Logan. That was a great thread to pull on, so thank you for that. Another thing to point out too for renters and everything with the trash cans and everything like that is that as a renter, you usually don't have the resources available to actually go out to a dump or anything like that. So it's usually, you know, I'm speaking from experience where a landlord was supposed to be taking care of the large item, but then they left it out for weeks on end and then continue to blame the tenant and everything like that for that kind of situation. But that's just, again, renters are going to be bearing the brunt of this rate increase regardless, so anytime that you notice that and find other ways of actually dealing with the revenue requirements for the garbage pickup would be appreciated by far, again, especially since we're shooting for 60% renters going forward. Also, I'm not a fan of, just on principle, starting to charge a fee for the green waste regardless of what happened. The logic of it being like, I don't know, it's what we want to do, right? And it's an infinite increase from 0 to any price point whatsoever, and that automatically inhibits that kind of behavior. You know, we're not seeing any supplementary stuff of like allowing for more overgrown lawns or anything like that. And again, that's a luxury that renters don't necessarily have any time. But it's also like starting to pay for the CVTD and then getting confused why people stop using the bus or anything like that, and then suddenly the service itself becomes inert. Let's see, sorry, my thoughts are all jumbled because there's too many facets. Sort of saying, oh, sort of blaming the tenants for using the trash can for removing big waste just because it's there too is just a little, again, leans in that logic of if it's a free option, people will take advantage of it. So that should be something good that we take advantage of and find other ways of subsidizing and allowing for that kind of free utility. Like ideally, I would love to have free water, free internet, and everything subsidized through like actual efforts as opposed to letting the landlords pay a minimum or something like that, because again, there's no guarantee that they're of the actual standard of trash that's supposed to be picked up, because we only care about if you're sitting with a car idle in your driveway, as opposed to whether the landlord is keeping up their end of a bargain, providing an actual shelter for an individual. But yeah, again, I'm just saying renters are going to be bearing the brunt of this kind of increase, so just keep that in mind for the next 6 years, whenever the next rate increase happens, since it seems that it was neglected. Anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, Josh Molitor from Logan. You know, I can see the reason for all this. I just think we need to bring back the dump mall. It was a really good service. It recycled a lot of things, and I don't know how much, you know, money it actually, you know, earned, but the dump mall was really cool. So, you don't know about the dump mall?
So we still have the landfill mall.
Landfill mall.
We've kind of consolidated it to our reuse shed where it's all free, but at the north end of our hazardous waste building, that reuse shed is still there for reuse items.
Isn't it $5 anything you want?
No, it's for the reuse, so it's usable paint and like lacquer. Sometimes we get pesticides, fertilizer, small items like construction items. So it's free. If we can safely set it aside, we put it in there.
Yeah, they used to have the, like, you know, you could go and get a bike for like $5, whatever they had, you know, it recycled a lot of things. So, I mean, I pulled a lot of things out of there. $5 for a lawnmower, parts, or for anything. Actually, it keeps it out of the dump. I mean, you know, certain things out of the dump. Some of the stuff goes to recycling, but still, I think that getting some of the guys from the jail, I think that's not a bad idea either. I've heard that they've been, you know, doing some work down there also. So, I mean, maybe allocating some of their time to do something like that would be a great idea and create revenue. Give those guys some sodas, you know, if they're out there working. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Just one clarification, that green waste rates will not affect renters. In most cases, you have to own a home to have green waste.
And I think your biggest increase is in that commercial roll-off too.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be your hardest hit segment.
Anybody else care to speak to the resolution 24-26? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council for action.
I'll move we approve resolution 24-26.
Second.
So any questions or comments? I do have a question though. So the reuse is just for things that are recyclable, but if someone drops a bike off there, that's not just...
So if you drop something off in that's usable, and part of the problem with the landfill mall is you got to tell the scale house that I got this usable item, I can set it aside for you and put it in that building. It's not, we're not going through the garbage. We're not looking for items that we can salvage or scavenge out and then reuse. Somebody has to come down with a good item and say, I am going to donate this so you can, give it back to somebody. And so if they're willing to do that, we can put out a little more public education so people can do that. And we get a lot of, a lot of it's paint. We have a lot of it's paint and some of your household chemicals. But other than that, like some of these big bulky items in the past, it did get abused a little bit. Somebody would bring a broken toilet or something down and say, I think you guys use that. And so it's in the landfill mall for a while, then we'd end up landfilling it. And so
it's my dream, broken toilet.
We try to do encourage it, but we don't want our operators or our staff physically going through the process. You can say at the scale house, I got this item to recycle, we're more than
Okay, so as patrons come in, they can identify something that
I
can
got
be
a useful item,
recycled.
this bike's broke, or this lawnmower, I think it needs a spark plug, but it's good. If they can tell us that and we can set it aside, that's easy.
Okay, and you can put that in that reuse center then?
Yeah.
And then there's no $5 charge, it's
No.
free? Okay.
Can I bring all my extra paint down though? I have a bunch of paint. I don't like it.
Well, I hope people are listening and know that they can do that then, so we can keep things out of the landfill. All right, good.
Gallons, drop it at your house.
All right. Any other questions or discussions on 24-26?
Nope.
There you go. Okay. All those in favor of resolution 24-26, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution 24-26 passes. All right, thank you. That ends our public hearings for tonight. We will now move on to our workshop items. As indicated at the start of the meeting, ordinance 24-14 has been withdrawn. We will now move on to workshop for resolution 24-31. Fire Chief Thompson will come and talk us through amending the fire rescue services.
Before he starts, do we have any idea if 24-14, are they planning on coming back? Do you know? Or?
All I know is that they, when I talked to Russ today, he just said that they withdrew.
So that's all we know.
I mean, it was denied by Planning Commission, so I know that they withdrew it.
Okay.
So.
Curious. Thank you. How are you, Chief? How are you?
Council? Excellent. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Let me work PowerPoint real quick. So this resolution, believe it or not, the last time the fire standby and EMS fees were looked at has already been I think it was December of 2020 when it was approved, which was right after the split from the SEMS Authority, as you know, and when Logan took over our own. And so a couple of other significant changes. State of Utah also passed beginning this July 1st. They've removed our ability to bill for procedural-based things. So you've probably seen, hopefully you've had a chance to look through. I'm going to take you through it. I won't spend a lot of time. I just want to make sure everyone's understanding the why on this one of what we've had to do. Maybe a little new philosophy on some fees that we're looking at that we've actually never done in Logan, in talking to comparable cities and other agencies. around us. So just really quick, like I said, previous fire and EMS fee schedule was last reviewed and approved by the council December of 2020. Obviously, since that time, there's been a significant increase in some medical supplies and medication costs, and additionally, supply chain issues. It's gotten much better the last little while, but as we know, things have gone up, in some cases substantially, and there's a few that haven't, but we wish it were different, but it just is what it is. And in terms of, we also did some new research, kind of looked at best practices here in the state of Utah. We got with our billing company, Gold Cross Ambulance. They obviously do billing for multiple agencies around us. There's not a state law that dictates what the markup should be on medical supplies or medications, but there is a best practice, and they recommend 2 to 4 times the cost of an item, and so we just settled in at 3 times the cost of an item, which is the same as what Ogden Fire Department does, Draper City. There's a few others, but those are 2 that are very similar to our size. And then additionally, like I mentioned, July 1, Utah, they just reorganized the BEAMS, Utah Bureau of EMS. It's now under the Utah Office of Administrative Rules, and under the new public safety rule, they've adjusted the base rates and mileage reimbursement, which has been kind of a long time coming for the fire service, particularly for fire-based EMS. Just as a reference for you, because in the proposal, we've always kept what the state allows, because that allows it to change each year if they make adjustments for inflation. But we've been dealing with a $1,750 base paramedic transport rate. That rate is being upped to $2,270. Mileage is a big one for Logan Fire Department. As you know, we do a lot of interfacility transfers, which takes our 911 units out of county for multiple hours. That has been stuck at $36.10 mile for several years, and it now is just recently bumped to the $42.24. And like I mentioned, we can no longer bill for procedures, so that's why you're going to see some of the red lines in the new fee schedule.
So the federal mileage reimbursement rate is like 61 cents a mile.
68 cents? Yeah.
So
For wear and tear on a car, not wear and tear on an ambulance.
I guess not. But that seems odd that the state would not go with the federal number. But anyway.
It's tough. It is. So a little excerpt from the proposal and the ordinance that I put in there. I just wanted to kind of run down where we've come from and where we're going. What we've done is we've come up with a standard way to monitor and track the cost of our apparatus that we're actually utilizing on our standbys. We utilize this year the 2024 Utah Division of Forestry, Fire and State Lands Fire Department Manual for recommended rates, which I know it's from Fire and State Lands, but they also handle the state's recommended hourly rates for ambulances as well. So we just wanted to standardize so that it became objective and we had a good measure. So for a long time, we've been at $225 per hour for an engine or a ladder. And additionally, that also included a brush truck. We've been at the same rate. Well, obviously, a large apparatus in the city of Logan now, we only have a finite amount of engines and trucks. We've got 2 ladder trucks and 4 engines. And so when we utilize one of those, that's out of service, technically, for 911 response. The state recommends, actually a little higher than this, it actually recommends, I believe, $338 for the use of a large apparatus. And the $40 an hour comes from Logan City Fire Department's average overtime rate. We just took captains through line firefighters and came up with our average for that. So that's where we've come up with our proposed $380 for a fire engine or ladder truck standby. Now, these are pretty rare. I can think of a couple of times in my career we've actually required a large apparatus standby. It's not one that's used often, but when it is, they're a little bit more of an expensive option. So we felt like we needed to move.
So why did you cut it from 3 to 2 firefighters?
From 3 to 2? Mm-hmm. Because most standbys we can successfully handle with 2. If the standby requires an additional firefighter, if someone were to say, hey, that standby requires 2 firefighters and a captain, we could make that option and then just add the additional firefighter for that $40 an hour. Because if we could do it with 2, we absolutely would in a standby situation.
And so the $380 per hour for one fire engine or ladder truck. And then in parentheses, it says $300 per apparatus and $40. So that's an additional.
No, so that's just the breakdown.
That's
So
where
the
they got the
380 is 300 for the rig,
Oh,
and then $40
okay.
for 2
I'm sorry.
firefighters. That's
I
the
was
$80.
not- Okay.
Oh, yeah, no problem. And then, as you know, most of our standbys are usually a brush truck. Most of them can be accomplished. Most of your fireworks standbys, things like that, don't require that big rig. So this is a small adjustment to that rate. We have been at the $225 per hour for a brush truck and 2 firefighters, with the state's recommended rate of $152 for a Type 6 is the category of a standard brush truck that you would see around, plus our $40 times the 2 is the $232 an hour. So a small increase there for a brush truck. That's the majority of our standbys. The other one that's kind of a unique one.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Define standby for me.
Standby.
Like when you guys are doing a standby, what is?
Yeah. So an event. So typically an event, non-emergent in nature. An event such as a fireworks show. So we have some, big businesses now in town that like to throw their own show. Well, the fire marshal's office would require a fire apparatus on standby to ensure that, grass doesn't catch on fire adjacent to a property or something like that. And most of your standbys are typically non-emergent in nature. And
So
they
these are
require a
all,
recall.
someone would hire you guys to come.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yep.
I thought so, but I just wanted to triple check.
Excellent
Fees are
question. No,
being paid by the corporation
Right.
or by the event organizer.
Can I hire you to come hang out at my house sometime?
Are you
I'm kidding. I'm
Fireworks.
I'm not allowed to do fireworks.
$380 per hour.
It's just, I'm looking for some friends for dinner one night.
Yeah.
And they're really bad grillers.
And
I heard they're the best at smoking and grilling. What are you talking about?
No, your friends are bad
Oh,
grillers.
yes.
That's why you need the fire
Sorry.
truck.
I
No, it's
derailed this
fine.
whole.
No, that's actually a really good question for clarification, because I think it's important for people to understand it. And so when someone applies for a permit to shoot fireworks, obviously that is reviewed by the fire marshal's office. They determine that level of risk and how much we would recommend that they, how many standbys or how many firefighters they might need for those. They're very specific. Usually it's fireworks in nature, the ones that I can think of.
So you do
fried turkey.
You do stand by a lot at football games.
We do. Yeah,
But
we
that's,
absolutely do.
but
For the
that's
university?
That's ambulance.
Correct. And we will get to that one. Yep. Now, the one that's kind of unique is the ARF standbys. For 10 years, we've charged the $250 an hour, or for the 2-hour standby for the, 6 or 7 flights, or maybe, I think last year, maybe we actually got to 10 flights for the university. But the reason that's a unique one and a tough one to hit is because there's not a good reference from the state of what to do there. Obviously, we're using 2 people that go to the airport, but then they're standing by and waiting for the flight to take off or come in, and we're standing by in the ARP vehicle, which isn't necessarily ours, it's the airport's. So we just made a small adjustment there based on it having been $250 for some time. The $285 covers our 2 personnel that would go there and, stand by in that apparatus. So.
And it's required for a certain level of landing.
Yes, the 139 CFR certification requires us, with officially over 31 souls coming into that airport, to have an official airport standby with that ARF truck.
And does 2 hours typically cover or
Yes,
go?
yes. Yeah, no, excellent question, Mayor. That, they're usually an hour and 30 minutes at the most from the ones we watch. And we do keep track of our time to make sure that it's covering it, and it does well with that.
So do you do when they arrive and when they leave?
Yes.
So you go twice for 2 hours or once?
Yeah, so when an aircraft is coming in with either a visiting team or the home team, we monitor it through an app that tells us when they're going to arrive. We arrive. The FAA requires us to be there about 30 minutes prior to them arriving. We have to be there while they unload, and then 20, 30 minutes, the aircraft usually leaves, and we have to stand by for 20 to 30 minutes after they've departed to make sure they're clear of our airspace. So that usually ends up being about an hour and a half to 2 hours total.
Because 30 minutes out, what are we going to do with the ARF truck at the airport?
I think long before then.
Yeah. So, and that, yeah, that can, yeah. So here today, it doesn't happen a lot. We felt, we're trying to do good service to the airport authority as well. That covers our personnel, and we feel like that's fair, so. So this is kind of the new area that I kind of wanted to talk to the council and the mayor about is in looking at ways, as you know, the increased cost of maintenance of tools that our fire trucks carry, saw blades, even absorbent anymore to soak up the fluids that are on the ground. It's ridiculous what this stuff is costing now. And we also want to balance, providing a good service that's economical and fair, but has a high level of professionalism as well for the citizens of Logan. We've come up with a rate just for perspective in comparing some of the extrication rates, and we really focused just on that area of our operation. For example, like North Davis Fire, I was super surprised at their rate. Let me tell you what their rate was. So for an extrication, so that would include extracting people from an entanglement in a car crash, right? That's the only thing we're talking about. So some of it requires the tools that we use, either battery powered or hydraulic, hand tools, cleanup. North Davis Fire District, which is one of the new districts, it's about 40 minutes south of here, charges a flat rate of $1,618 for an extrication. Santa Clara, on the other end of the state, actually charges $1,757 for an extrication. And it's very specific to that, right? And we don't have to extricate people a lot, but when we do, there are things, just inherent costs that come with that. Carbide blades that we use to cut through the materials. All we're looking for is the ability to be able to bill a vehicle insurance. This is not healthcare related. This is vehicle insurance specifically. They typically look for these types of charges, and this would be a way to recoup the cost of some of the expensive blades, the absorbent, the use of our power tools. The batteries go out on our e-tools that we use. We call those the battery-powered jaws of life that we use now. As we know, that stuff just is all very, very expensive, which is kind of new to the fire industry over the last 10, 20 years. So we came up with a very, very, what we felt like a very fair amount to just kind of test the waters to see, hey, it would be nice to be able just to recoup the cost of those things. So you'll see our 3 items there. Light extrication, like I've said, use of hand tools, so saw blades, things of that nature. It's $100 an hour. Heavy extrication, which is the use of all of our bigger equipment and tools, $150 an hour with an hour minimum, and then of course fluids on the ground with the things that come with that, battery care, cleaning up battery acid, things like that, $50 an hour for those.
So how do you know who to bill that to? Like when there's an accident, do you get that information from the police department? How is that communicated to you?
Yeah, excellent question. So with it being new for Logan Fire Department, the officers that are on these crashes will have to document that information into what we call our fire report. It's our INFRS report. And then there's a separate billing company that actually that specializes in billing the vehicle insurance companies, which is separate from our EMS billing system to recoup that. And the thing we really like about that is they only bill the insurance if they only recoup, let's say 30% of that, then that's all they recoup. They never go after individuals or anything like that. So
is that the reason why the other ones are so high? So they figure if they get 30%, they've at least made their costs?
Well, it's a great question. I'd like to talk to some of them to find out why they are. A lot of what I've been able to tell is the fire districts tend to be more, and they're billing for literally almost every service that a fire department provides. That's never been the philosophy here, but I just bring it up to show you there are some really unique philosophies, I think, out there in terms of funding the fire department, the expensive things that come with it. This would just be a kind of a dip our toe in to say, hey, this would be a great way to at least recoup those. So, but I don't have the answer to some of the philosophies to why.
Because, if you charge $150 and you only get 30% of it.
It would be 30% more than we've ever billed in Logan City.
That's going to be my next question. Currently, we've never billed for any fire department service outside of EMS.
Correct. And this one to me is in the middle, right? Like it's not really fire-based, we're not extinguishing a fire, which has always been part of what Logan provides, right? With the fire department, the citizens here pay for that. We extinguish all fires for no cost unless it's a criminal act, right? But extrication requires unique tools, right, of disentangling people from vehicles, and so it comes at a significant cost of maintenance and, you know, the usage. So it's an area where, hey, we really ought to look at this and give it a go. So.
What percentage of fire departments in the state do you think are charging for some of their services like this? Is it common? I mean, some of them are obviously charging $700.
Yeah,
but
it is more and more common. Now, an exact percentage, I don't know.
Sure.
But I can get access to that information to the state chiefs.
But it's
and ask.
quite common.
Much more common, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're the uncommon ones currently not charging.
Yeah. And the reason I throw Santa Clara out there is they're one of the newest, smallest fire departments in the whole state. I don't know if you remember, but Chief Hannick actually worked there for a small stint when they were converting over, you know, a 1 or 2 fire station, you know, fire department, and, you know, a super high rate for an extrication. So there's also a new study out there that I believe an independent audit or an independent research, it was research that someone did that was done for the state of Utah Fire Chiefs, Utah State Fire Chiefs Association, which some people have adopted the entire schedule. And as you know, our fire prevention office, we adopted a new schedule for them just last year. They've never charged ever for sprinkler inspection, plan reviews, things like that. And so, which was a big step for us because that also comes at a high cost for Logan, right? That's a lot of things that group does. This particular study included everything. North Davis Fire District, with them being a fairly new district, actually adopted pretty much the whole fee schedule right from that. So it's some additional information that might just be good education for all of us, and we probably need to look more into that. But that seems to be the trend. Yeah,
okay,
thank you. Fees, yeah. So sorry, I didn't want to go crazy with that stuff. But let me just get into the last little section here. It's much easier for those were kind of the new sections I wanted to highlight. Let me just bring up the. Let me just bring up the document that you're looking at. Let's see. So everyone can see what we're talking. So we just reviewed this first section on the top. Let me make this nice and big for everyone. I just wanted so that everyone knew we were good. So reviewed the top, the new section of the proposed the extrication fees, specifically with vehicle accidents. As we get into this bottom part, it's a 3-page part. I tried to make it as clear as possible in working with legal. If I have struck it through, it means those things can no longer be billed by law. So, for example, a patient assessment is no longer effective. We can't even bill for that any longer as we go through here. The rates that I gave you at the beginning, in the increase from up to the $22.70, for example, for the paramedic service, all of those in these first 5 boxes are dictated by the state's rules. So if they adjust each year, we don't have to redo this each year. And that one, again, was just adjusted July 1. On the medical standbys, that's another one that we have to increase. For example, North Davis Ambulance is $250 an hour, Santa Clara $275 an hour. We would like to adjust to the $215 an hour for a 2-hour minimum. What we base that on is the state's recommendation on the hourly rate for ambulance usage and 2 personnel at the $68 an hour per the state's recommendations. Let's see. Now, as you go through, if we haven't adjusted the price, that means we were okay. Some of these prices are a small amount, some are larger. If there's any there in these lists in front of you that jump out, I'll try to do my best to explain. Some of those are new medical devices that we're utilizing.
What about the pediatric needle airway is dropping dramatically. It's from 400 to 105.
So, no, excellent catch. So the needle so that's a cricothyrotomy where we actually surgically create an opening in a throat. That used to be a rate-based procedure. So that rate was $400 to be able to use the supply and perform perform the procedure, they required us to take procedures out. So
Okay.
on that one, that's why that one's gone down.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there was some others that you might have questions
Pulse
on.
oximeter went way up from $40
Yeah.
to $82.
Yeah, pulse oximetry probes have gone up. They also tend to go bad, so we have to replace those. They're a very common device that's used, and unfortunately, they do go bad. We replace those quite often. The other one I was going to mention, let's see. And medications, actually, not too bad. There's a few that are fairly expensive. Calcium chloride's an expensive med. But most of the others, with the exception of glucagon, obviously glucagon is very expensive. That's kind of our last line, low blood sugar, a hypoglycemic emergency where we can't get an IV and someone's unconscious. That's kind of a last resort treatment, and they are very expensive.
So if I'm a unfortunate person and you're called to do some of these things for me, are these charges that in turn I could pass on to my insurance carrier
Yeah.
for these supplies?
Yeah, so our building agency, Gold Cross, has this sheet, and they know what our rates are, what we're charging for our supplies. They also have the state-based rates, so everyone's the same on that throughout the system, and yeah, they bill those to the insurance. And typically, I mean, it's kind of a big story, but Rich would probably be able to help, but we typically, for 100, if we build 10 million, we're maybe going to collect 4.5 of that, pretty close to that, so.
Yeah. That hasn't
Medicare and
changed.
Medicaid
That hasn't
require
changed
us
since
to-
we're on our own.
Yeah, well, and Medicare and Medicaid, as you know, require the discount, they like to call it,
Yeah.
but it's basically a write-off, so.
So if I was having a baby, I'd be better off waiting at home because you guys only charge $56.
That's exactly what they
It's
say.
funny, because I'm looking at these going, this is cheaper than going to the doctor. We already have that barbecue.
Helping a child bursts out in the field, those are some of the funnest calls ever.
Oh,
Yeah, we gotta take the good ones.
It's only $56. So. Next to them having a baby.
It's procedural as well.
Let's make sure your wife's on board with that.
With me having a baby.
No, yeah.
or the fire department delivering a baby.
My wife's an accountant. She'd say $56.
That's so funny, that's
Savings.
Craig picked up on that, it's pretty good. Yeah, see, it is a
It's way cheaper than going to the doctor.
And that's just the supplies associated with childbirth.
Yes.
Let's just be clear.
Yes, that's the
typical
supply, that's our, what we call our own kit with the
That's all in.
gowns and the clips and the scalpel.
No, we still have to pay for them to be there.
And
Right.
then you have the
Stand by.
$225.
It's still a bargain.
Yeah, it's still a bargain.
Any other additional questions on the fees or some of that background?
No, but I'm getting fee exhaustion.
Yeah.
Nobody's not very raise cheese anymore.
I know.
But bearing in mind, a lot of the higher end ones are, all of those are going to corporations or individuals who are employing you for standby. They're not services that are passed on to our citizens. If you go out on a call, we do not charge a homeowner because their house was on fire.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, standby services are over and above. Additional, not typically non-emergent, and just needed for fire safety, so we don't catch something that's on
For
fire.
a 139 requirement.
Yeah, and the 139 CFR.
At Mike's house.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your evening. Hopefully it'll be quiet.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, our final workshop item is a budget adjustment, resolution 24-30. This is a pretty big one,
A
so
pretty long one.
Dang it, Rich.
It is
what do we got going on here with our perfect budget?
mostly grants.
Mostly
We
grants.
leave out of our budget, and
Okay.
a couple reimbursements. So $18,000 for the internet crimes against children, we get that each year. 57,336, this is a state reimbursement. We didn't know that we were going to get reimbursed, so we had appropriated the expenses prior to that. This reimburses the department, specifically the Parks and Rec Department, $20,000 for the Little Park Sports Complex and $37,000 for the Tracker Park Trail. Now they can complete those projects. They can do what they were intending to do prior to that change.
Rich, can I ask Russ, is that still on Is that still on for this fall, the Chapter Park Bridge, we think? Sorry to make you walk all the way up here, I was just curious.
That's what he's been hanging out for.
I know, he's been back there, so I figured I could ask him this question.
It's in the works. It's in the fabrication schedule. Just today, we were speaking to them about their schedule, and it is a little delayed. They have enough work orders in front of ours to where it'll take some additional time. And the reason I'm telling you this is the key time that we're looking at that they think that they can provide delivery is about spring runoff of next.
Right, because I know originally we were hoping to get in before that.
So, I mean, we would like to be ahead of it or after it.
Right.
And where that schedule doesn't allow us at this stage to be before it, we're thinking if we do have runoff next year, that we're probably July or August of next year. Otherwise, we'll go before runoff, because that's about the time they said they would be ready, but it just depends on the river.
Okay.
Might as well just have a seat here, because I'm sure there's a few more in this list that we're going to have questions about.
Don't go away. Stay close.
I see the next one with the after-school program is probably going to be one of them.
Third wet year in a row, so yes.
Hopefully.
Yeah, it's going to be wet.
Next is $40,000 for a Cigna grant. We received this we've received it for several years for wellness and to encourage employee wellness. $390,000 for after-school programs. We received that in the past. $8,080 for a fire EMS grant, and $2,654 for a 911 fund grant. $350 for it's a donation toward concerts at the La Plaza. $64,628 for a fire grant for EMS supplies. $158,561. This is our RAPS grant for the year population tax allocation. $330,437 for our sports complex, again RAPS, and lastly, I believe this is also RAPS, $144,563 for the Blue Trail.
So I do believe it's not municipal pollution allocation.
It is pollution.
It's population.
One of Teresa's rare
I was like, what is that?
It should be population.
And I actually,
It's accurate on the PDF on the email.
what quad is being paved?
Which one?
What quad do we have that's being paved?
Sorry, where do you see?
Yeah, this is.
It's for the golf range
correct.
improvements, Trapper Bridge, bank stabilization, and quad paving.
I can answer that one for you. It is the interior of the Willow Park Sports Complex area. It has a asphalt paving, which has seen its better day and needs to be repaved. And so that's in moving these funds, yes, to redo that.
Did you say what?
Between the quads.
Between the backstops at the sports complex.
Oh, okay.
It's not the
The only quad I know is up there.
It's not the infield.
Not that way.
Infield doesn't need to be repaved, it's already firm enough. So.
And I'm going to anticipate a question.
I get it now.
I'm going to anticipate a question when we have the public hearing on this, because Dr. Yost often asks about the allocation of the after-school funding. So do you have any more information, or can you provide us with more information on how that's allocated between the schools?
Sure. Probably better for me to provide it at the public hearing.
Okay.
But just briefly, it's because they're on two different schedules. And so we prepare what needs to be brought before you based on when the state releases that contract for those schools.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just anticipating the question.
Well,
based on history.
Yeah.
Based on recent history.
Any other questions for Russ while he's up there?
Where's the blue kayak trail ramp? Which one?
The ones that we are looking at doing is Rendezvous Park, Trapper Park, and the 600 South Park.
Because I knew there were multiples we were looking at.
There are. In fact, there's more than that, but for this
one,
this phase, it's those three.
Great. That's exciting.
I've seen people kayaking on the river.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
fun.
Now, if we get that first dam diversion, we could have more.
Can I ask where the 600 South Park is it going to?
Yeah, so the property is currently undeveloped.
Okay, so is it the area that
Yeah, at the
cattle are usually
south
right now?
end of 19th West.
Okay.
600 South, right there at the bridge. There's about 20 acres there.
Yeah.
And
I didn't realize that was all part of the
yeah,
park.
that location's critical to the Blue Trail Master Plan because it's the takeout.
Right.
If you're coming from further upstream.
Text messages.
Okay, yeah, no, I didn't realize the park was that big. I thought it was just that little piece that had already been, like, has the picnic tables, and I didn't realize it was all that area to the west of it still.
Yeah.
In my brain, it was a long way to carry a kayak
Yeah, it's a long way.
from where the river is to where the park
We're
is.
trying to figure that part out.
Yep, that's a lot
Yeah.
of carrying.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Russ?
No.
Thanks, Russ.
Okay.
Any questions for Rich on that?
We got our parks questions answered.
Okay. All right, that closes our workshop items for this evening. Are there any other considerations from the council for tonight?
Just a quick announcement that there will be at least one Hispanic Heritage Festival, the Latino Festival on Center Street on September 14th. The other one that was already talked about, which was for Friday 13th, I haven't heard much about it. But the one on Center Street is happening, so.
Okay, on the 14th, do you know what time it starts, Ernesto?
It's going to start early. It's going to start, I believe, programming around 11 in the morning. And it's going to go clear until, I believe, 8 or 9 p.m., something like that.
Okay.
Lots of numbers happening from groups and coming from all over the place, not just from Logan. So it's going to be the biggest one we've had.
It is a fun activity.
I like that every year it gets bigger,
Yeah,
bigger.
it's a fun activity.
The parade will be actually different this year because the parade is going to start on the west side around 200 West. It's going to come into Center Street and finish right around the arch. Cool. So, some interesting new changes that they'll be trying out. And I've just joined them a little bit in the organizing meetings that they've had.
Cool. Good. I realize I should have mentioned during our report that we have had a couple of requests for programming at the Law Plaza that we had to weigh in and vote on, so we've got some things coming up on that. So just keep your eyes open for what's happening at the Law Plaza, because that's going to continue past these summer Wednesday concerts. There's going to be activities. Are you guys doing the pumpkin thing again this year?
28th of September. Yeah. And then there's Center Street Art Beat Music Festival and Art Festival on the 24th of August, which should be wonderful also. So 24th of August on Center Street Music Festival, including the Law Plaza. Yeah.
So when Center Street's shut down like that, do we put an announcement on the city webpage that that's a road closure, or do we just hope people kind of pay attention?
I think we just put the signs up and they can't turn there.
Gotta pay attention.
All right. Anything else?
And nobody drives on
All right,
Center
seeing nothing, we are adjourned. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
So great.